James is going to talk about a couple fiction books and the Kremlin Conspiracy, which
that's fiction too.
It's fiction too, apparently.
By E. Howard Hunt, one of the Watergate conspirators.
He's going to have a veggie sub. And I'm going to briefly talk about Shakespeare and Hathaway, Private Investigators, Season 2.
Is their first name Anne then? And his first name William?
No.
Okay, well that's not so obvious.
Well, it all is, right?
Okay.
But it's just their thing.
Well,
there we go.
Give me a little bit.
I had to move things around
for my back,
so that the camera wouldn't be cooking in the sun.
Yeah, it's lots of stuff is cooking in the sun. Some people at the beach enjoying it, but plants in my backyard, not so much fun. But want to survive.
So, I enjoyed this season more than the last one, but it's a very dumb series. And
is it English?
It is. They have them dressing up in silly costumes.
Period costume?
Well, there's one episode where all of them are dressing up in silly costumes, going in to this, I don't know, it's some sort of a club, I guess, where they dress up sort of like different characters. I guess they kind of compared it to Dungeons and Dragons or something like that for adults, but I don't know. Anyway, just seems silly. And then there's, but a lot of the time they have their assistant dressing up in different costumes because he's an actor, but he's not a good actor. He does accents well, but I mean, every time he's dressed up in a costume, and you see the people in the story are buying into it, right? But we're not. We're watching this guy in different costumes, and it's like, just give him glasses with a mustache sort of thing every time. I mean, it's ridiculous. So nobody would buy it. Everybody would be like, okay, well, is it Halloween then? You know, like, what's the big thing? But anyway, anyway, I managed to kill some time with it while my back's trying to recover, and it's very hot outside, so whatever. And now James is going to talk to you about some fiction stuff for some reason. You don't usually review fiction stuff.
No, but I got into this stuff because I'm interested in Smosh. Particularly interested in this guy. That's not to say that this is an interesting book by any means. I think if it hadn't been E. Howard Hunt, I would have got through about 11 pages. As it is, I got through about 54 pages. Of course, a lot of those pages were from material. So I bet you it started at age 14. No, page 9. Anyway, so E. Howard Hunt, this is a cast-off, as I was intimating this morning, and it would be from the Lethbridge Public Library. It's something that's easily cast-offable. These two books by Donald Hamilton were cast-offs from the Lethbridge Public Library. I don't mind them casting off because maybe they shouldn't be latching onto this, but whatever people read, I guess they should be getting. It's a moth, like, digesting this.
Oh, that's pretty cute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cute. Didn't get to the
No, it didn't get
text,
that far.
so I don't really care. Anyway, you can kind of tell when it's bad paper. The moss like that. The fancier paper, they don't.
It's harder for them to chew, I guess.
Anyway, this is about over 300 pages. I won't call it incompetence, but it's actually pretty good as far as formula stuff goes. And it's kind of like John Grisham or Stephen King. I'm not saying it's a similar type of formula, but it's just kind of like working like. So E. Howard Hunt, I used to think he was just an ignorant chimp, but apparently he got a degree, at least he attended a degree from, or at least attended an Ivy League university called Brown University. It's located in Providence, Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, I think it's Providence. It's the capital of Rhode Island. It's a fairly large city, weirdly enough. Even though Rhode Island is such a small state. How small is it? It's 50th out of the 50 states in terms of land area. At least it was when I was a kid. I don't think it's changed. I don't think Texas has got any more, or Delaware has picked up any more land from surrounding states. So I was, before we cut out, or the camera cut out this morning, I was starting to review Matt Helm, stuff from the Matt Helm series, and saying that I had seen a movie version of one of Hamilton's Matt Helm magnum opuses, and I think it was called Murderous Row. It's been a while. Almost 2 generations. That's the star era. What's going on overhead? Sounds like helicopter to you.
It's very loud.
It's very loud. I think sound is carried more effectively when it's warm, and it sure is feeling like that today. Because I'm not just hearing the sound, I'm feeling
You're feeling it, yeah.
It's annoying on holidays. This is a long weekend, one day in Canada. I don't know if it is in the United States. At least it is in Alberta. I don't know if it is all the way across Canada. It's called Heritage Day, and and it's people are around, storming around in their vehicles, and generally exhibiting how irrelevant they are. People, the drivers, the operators, they're not smooth operators.
I wasn't going to review this, but since we're talking, James was talking about this sort of stuff, it fits, right? So this is the Year of Living Dangerously with Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver. And
Mel is short for smell, of course.
so he's very handsome in this one.
You find him now?
Yeah. And it's amazing, He should, rather than putting those pictures of people with no lips or some and holes in their throats and whatever else for pictures of the insides of their mouths going cancerous or whatever on cigarette packages, they should give a before and after of Mel Gibson, honestly. Because
he's a smoker.
This was 1982. He must be. I don't know.
He's really ravaged his face.
But whatever he's doing, or whatever he's done, this was 1982. And he's, he's not my type. But I can see how people thought he was a heartthrob back then.
Okay.
Because he actually was handsome. He looked good with Sigourney Weaver. They look good, and she's lovely. She's still lovely. Whereas he is not lovely anymore.
Tastes changed. Like in the 60s, people would have laughed at him for that, even at his best. I was mentioning
Hey, Blue Jay.
Hey there, fella.
He's looking a lot better now.
Yeah, he is. His
Yeah.
Mohawk is growing back.
Yeah, he has
Someone
kind of a
re-
buzz cut look with his feathers on his head, but they're in there.
It was looking
Yeah,
pretty,
it's pretty
bad
good.
for a while there. How are you feeling, buddy? Are you hungry? You are, maybe.
Did I not top it up well enough today?
He's looking, I think, for some peanuts. I'm not sure if there's some peanuts there.
I have to
You're looking for some goodies?
refresh it.
We don't
Yeah.
ask for tricks.
Anyway, so this movie, I looked on the case because I was like, how long is this thing? And it says only 115 minutes, but it felt so long. I had to stop it and go do something else. Stop and go several times, and I know that people want to do. Yeah, we found a peanut there. Good.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Oh, it was
So-
without a shell.
Well, I don't have any other
I
ones
know,
with the shells
yeah.
anymore.
It's taken them a while to figure out that those
That
are
they're
as
still
good as
peanuts,
the-
yeah. But anyway, I know when a lot of the time filmmakers or even actors, they want to be a part of something meaningful, and they want to do something meaningful with their work. But and so they want to tell something political or something that's something topical, whatever. So. But if it's not entertaining, I mean, you can tell stories that are, I mean, they say truth is stranger than fiction. There's a lot of true stories out there that movie makers have told, and they've made them really entertaining. But this isn't one of them. This isn't even, I don't think it's a true story in any.
It's as boring as a true story?
But it's as boring or more boring than a true story. It's Indonesia, 1965. Revolution is in the air. So this is
yeah.
So they show a lot. Since James was talking about the Kremlin and stuff like that. I mean, you see there's a lot of people marching down the street with the Soviet flag and stuff like that.
Oh, they actually portray them being commies and stuff like that?
Well, there were, I guess, groups that it looked to be, yeah.
So, Noam Chomsky's made much of his career out of Indonesia, 65, 66.
Mm.
So what happened was the Americans supported I don't know to what extent. Chomsky probably thinks they had agents there and stuff like that. Chomsky's got to be drawn. Anyway, there was a guy in power called Sukarno, and he kind of was flirting around with the communists. And LBJ was a little bit different from Kennedy, maybe not as sophisticated in his fighting against communism. So at any rate, the CIA and maybe other elements supported a rebellion against Sukarno, and then the person who came in was, I don't think I'd call him a Muslim fundamentalist. The fundamentalist in Islam in Indonesia is very different from what it is other places in the world. But Chomsky keeps on going on about how 1 million lefties got killed in the wake of this.
Mm.
I'm going, yeah, how many of them are commies? Eh? No, how many? How many? And, when you get 1 million killed in a year, Pol Pot, on a much smaller population base. Indonesia is maybe 270 million people now. It's catching up with the United States. No, that was 3 years ago. Lord only knows what it is now. Back then, it might have been half the population, but half of 270 million. Anyway, over 100 million. When you get 1 million people killed on a population base of over 100 million, it's less than 100%, less than 1% kill rate. Whereas when the commies took over in Cambodia, what was the population base? 5 million? Even if it was 10 million, Pol Pot killed 2 million in the space of a few years. See the difference between 1% and what's 2 out of 10? It's 20%. And if it's out of 5, it's 40%. So Noam Chomsky, speaking of him, has gone on the record saying, we've got to be 10 times better than them, presumably the commies or whoever's an enemy. Let's do a little fact checking. Let's say Cambodia was 10 million. Back then, commies killed 20%. The people that were supported by the United States and Indonesia killed less than 1%. The Americans were 20 times better. Do your, what people call math, do your arithmetic. So yeah, it's nice they were doing this, because people don't know about Chomsky. Thinks he's a big hero for mentioning it. He just never lets that wound that he's opened up a little pinprick pulling off the scab. See, Americans were so evil. 1 million, and Lord only knows what would happen if the commies had taken over there. Jesus H. God. You look at what the Americans did. They say 1 million people in Vietnam. Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. That's from 54 until 72. Almost 20 years. 1 million dead. Whereas the commies in Cambodia, 2 million, less than 5 years. And then the Vietnamese take over in Cambodia, and in the space of a few years, not 20 years, kill 1 million more. You see the difference? No, you don't. But, well, I'm talking to nifty, shifty, hefty lefties out there, all half of a brain that's watching. Might be 10 people weeping and gnashing their teeth, but yeah. Anyway, that's who I'm referring to when I say, no, you don't. You don't care, because you're Antifa or whatever. Anti-fascists. Yeah, you're totalitarian. In that way, you're worse than the fascists. You're into witch hunting like crazy. So again, I want to stress, I'm talking to nifty, shifty, hefty lefties out there. Okay? Anyway, hopefully I didn't interrupt you. Did you have more to say?
You know what? I really don't. I really don't have more to say about this movie. I actually like the cover art. That's about the best I can say for this movie.
It's so much like a romance novel cover art. It's incredible. Yeah. Mel Gibson is smoking a cigarette. That might have been not intended. And he's got a shirt, it's funny, why don't they just leave the shirt open naturally? But it looks as though he's kind of wrenched it open on the one side. It looks pretty hard. Hey, am I showing enough chest hairs here or whatever? And it's. I was going to mention about taste. I was mentioning to Pauline, I couldn't understand the 80s. I can remember my youngest sister drooling over Mel Gibson, and she, at roughly the same time she was, well, it would have been earlier in the 70s, but she was reminiscing about my second oldest sister drooling over a picture of Mick Jagger or something like that. Times change. Back in the 60s, early 70s, Mick Jagger was considered good-looking, studly. In the 80s, Mel Gibson considered good-looking, studly. I would have much preferred back in the day to look like Mick Jagger than Mel Gibson. I thought he looked ridiculous. I thought he looked like that's back in the day.
Well, he actually looked handsome in this.
Well, again, standards change. That's all I'm saying. Mick Jagger looks kind of ridiculous now, looking back at it, but Mel Gibson looked ridiculous to me then. If I was looking at Thunderdome, he looked ridiculous to me. But that's not. I'm not saying that. It's just a difference in taste. I'm not challenging your taste or anything like that. It's just.
He's not to my taste. I'm just saying he does look handsome in this movie.
Handsomeness is a matter of taste. That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about personality or anything like that. So I recognized way back when I thought Mick Jagger was handsome that his personality was, not that attractive. Anyway. All right.
So now you're going to talk about your.
Speaking of unattractive personalities, we'll deal with Donald Hamilton. I'll be able to file this away. stuff like that. No, you gotta get.
I don't know. You were just talking about spy stuff and
Yeah, exactly.
Russia,
Right.
and I thought, oh,
Oh
wow.
no, that's appropriate.
That's-
That sort of stuff, of course. I don't know exactly what role they were playing in Indonesia and so on and so forth, but
Well, I can give you more of a review. But
Yeah, sure.
It's stupid. Why? It's so stupid.
Well, I'm interested because
Really?
most people, when Chomsky gets on to this about Indonesia,
Well, it's
go,
just
"Oh,
some
wake me
stupid
up when it's
fiction
over."
thing about.
Well, but theoretically,
okay,
it's
in the
based on-
story, Mel Gibson is a journalist,
Yeah.
and he's trying to, I guess, make his life matter and get some fame or whatever. And so he's in Java trying to report about what's happening, about the political crap. And you can see it's a powder keg, and it's already really out of control, and it's about to get worse. And he, well, I don't want to give the whole story away by telling this, but he's wondering about. He starts working with a photographer who's taking videos of the whole thing, and whatever, and the photographer, he's wondering about whether he's a spy or something like that. Because
Wonder whether Gibson's this.
no, Gibson is wondering if
Okay,
the
there we
photographer's
go.
a spy. Because the photographer is a dwarf. And early on in the movie, the photographer says to him, well, it's actually good to be a dwarf because nobody resents you if you're intelligent or anything like that, right? And he can get into all sorts of places. Like he'll get into places that he's not invited to, because people are uncomfortable with throwing him out or whatever, right? So he's actually a good photographer to have because he's able to get Mel Gibson into places that he wouldn't be able to get into on his own and stuff like that, and get away with doing stuff that he wouldn't be able to get away with doing on his own. So, but Mel Gibson's wondering about this because he finds that the guy's keeping files on people and stuff like that, and he's wondering anyway. And he becomes romantically involved with Sigourney Weaver, her character, and you're kind of, as a viewer, you're kind of wondering, well, is she a spy, right? Because here she's I don't want to give, I'm giving way too much away by talking about
What
this.
is her ostensible job, though? What is she there for? I didn't catch it.
Well, I don't know, but
Okay.
she manages to get a hold of like encrypted messages and stuff like that. So she's getting a hold of stuff
That's
that
pretty suspicious to
yeah,
me.
that it seems like, okay, well, that she has this information available to her, and what is she doing with it? And she's letting something slip out to certain people, like Mel Gibson. So you're wondering, okay, how is she actually manipulating the people around her, and to what ends? Why is she doing this? Why is she giving up some information and whatever? Anyway, so I'm not going to give any more away, because just in case you do want to watch Mel Gibson when he was handsome. But yeah, that's why I brought it out, because they're talking about spies
Yeah.
and communism, and so were you. So that's why.
Sure, exactly right. So actually, the bad folks in these two novels, when were they initially published? 83, 86, something like that. Try to put it on the inside page. 86 for the one.
Somebody's upset.
We're excited. 83. Yep.
Okay.
So they are kind of like fellow travelers, Sputniks for the commies. The other one, it's like some of the James Bond things are not about SMERSH. which is something like death to smert or something like that, is the Russian root for death. They can hear how it's got mort in it, but they chuck an S in front of it. It's an Indo-European language. So it's kind of like death to spies and saboteurs, smirch. And I guess it's an initialism, but you almost have to call it an actor. Anyway, like James Bond is dealing with terrorists, terrorists kind of like for hire and stuff like that. People aren't necessarily commies and so on and so forth. And it's the same sort of thing with Matt Helm, as portrayed by Donald Hamilton. Of course, everyone knows Matt Helm's based on a real... No, he's not based on a real character. So he's 6'4", eyes that bore. No, I don't know what color his eyes are. Probably blue. He's supposed to be of Scandinavian ancestry. And one of these is set in Scandinavia. I think it's The Vanishers. And it's, yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like a wintry kind of setting in the picture. Never even noticed that. Pictures haven't done that well. But, front cover. Front down. Excuse me. I had to sneeze there. It's warm. But the sun kind of disappeared for a second. Somewhat. So there are, he doesn't think that much of lefties. Lefties appear in both of these. So on and so forth. And this guy, it's weird. I was mentioning, but maybe it didn't make it onto the film, that I went to see one of his earlier productions done as a movie. Yeah, I think it was Murderer's Row. I think it was about 66, 67. I thought this guy, I thought Matt Helm had been around forever, kind of like James Bond, going back into the 50s sometime. But apparently Donald Hamilton's first Matt Helm piece was 1960. So just, I guess it was a bit of a phenomenon right from the get-go, because already by about 66, 67, they were making a film starring, not some flunky, but, well, he was kind of a flunky actor, but Dean Martin. He was a bit of a name. He actually had a TV series, a variety show. It was kind of like competition for Ed Sullivan. And anyway, this stuff, what is Matt Helm like? Yeah, he's really successful with the women. How much time?
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half. Really unaccountably successful with the women, all this sort of stuff. Women are always, he never trusts women, and he never should, according to the women that he's running across, because they're all lying to him. And he figures it out, he always figures it out, right? And stuff like that. It's really ridiculous stuff. Definitely not recommended, unless you're kind of interested in the mindset back then. This is the 80s, but it's kind of like a 50s mindset. Anyway, enough said. Don't even bother reading it. Reading this stuff, any of it. So take care until next time, when we'll probably...
You're not going to talk about the Kremlin thing? You have 30 seconds.
Kremlin conspiracy. Well, that's what I was going to say. I will be dealing with E. Howard, not what he did in real life. We'll be dealing with fact, not fiction. But, yeah. Enough said.